Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Coffee and Cannoli podcast. Joined once again by the Putty Man off to my right, Campo right below me, and Caps right below Putty Man. So, which means we're doing another wrestling episode. This time it's all about our top 5 WrestleMania matches. Now I know WrestleMania was last month, but since we are in the month of May, and last week we did the WrestleMania Backlash review, we're going to do this in for I guess we can call it WrestleMania for the month of May.
That's amazing,
right?
But see, it's funny though because you got to remember it's still WrestleMania because it was WrestleMania with Backlash. Like they had to put in the name. Like
yeah.
Forget this is good. Like no, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
Just like
yeah, he's still going by the WrestleMania. But
like
we
that.
are doing
Sounds really good.
Yeah, right. See, I told you I had something ready for this. So with that out of the way, Putty, I'm going to have you start with your number 5 greatest WrestleMania match of all time.
Well, gosh, I had to cap it, but it's all from the same like WrestleMania, and it's WrestleMania 3, which the two are Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, as well as the Randy Macho Man Savage Ricky Steamboat match, which was better than the Hulk Hogan one. But of course, as a kid, I felt like because I had to appreciate the Ricky Steamboat one later. And then the Hulk one was the one I liked as a kid. So I was like, that's why I decided to cap it. The kid one and the one that I looked at later on going, wow, this is actually a better match.
I think that is going to appear somewhere later on the list too.
I also have one. I have Steamboat on my list, but I think if you have a caps right now, everyone needs to take your caps off because there's no way we're going to be able to fit caps on this list. I know this is the only
one.
Video,
that's the only one I had.
Yeah.
I had to do.
I have none. These
it's
are my
fine
top
because your other one is definitely on no one's list. So I feel
so
like
we're safe with that one.
The Andre one,
that was one of the worst matches of all time.
I tried to avoid caps to
I just did that because as a kid,
hey,
I
it's your favorite list.
Hey, and the commentary on that match, Gorilla Monsoon. That's the irresistible force meets the immovable object. Like, come on, that line is cemented in history.
Yep. Ventura was with him, right?
No, that was Heenan and Monsoon.
Really?
I think that was
Heenan on ringside for the Andre Hulk match.
No, I don't think so. You're
remember.
right. No, that was which one was the one where which one was the one that came out in the trolleys that looked like little mini rings? Was that 3 or 4?
That's 3.
Okay, then Heenan. Then it was. You're right. It was Ventura. You're right. It was Monsoon and Ventura
going crazy when Hulk slammed him.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right. Then in that out of the way, Caps, I'm going to have you go with your number 5.
My number 5 is Brett versus Owen, WrestleMania 10.
That is a very good match. That came close to making my list, but not quite.
Yeah, that one's unmentioned was mine as well.
Campo, your number.
Once again, as a normal person, I have learned that honorable mentions are your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And capsing things generally comes back to bite you in the butt. So my number 5, it's fine to get it out of the way now because Putty already said it. It's Steamboat versus Macho Man.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, that one will appear again. Trust me on that one. Because my number 5 is Hart versus Stone Cold, WrestleMania 13, the submission match.
Yeah, that's later in my list actually.
That's also later in my list.
Later in my list.
All right, then Putty, your number 4.
All right, so my number 4 is actually the Stone Cold. It's the WrestleMania 17 Stone Cold versus The Rock, the no DQ match.
Okay.
So it was
did not make my list.
Yeah, it was just the third one. I remember it so distinctly, but it wasn't. I loved it. It was enjoyable.
It's on my list.
Okay.
Not on mine.
All right, then Caps, your number 4.
Razor versus Shawn.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't even have a list. That's also on my list.
Same here. That is on my list as well.
I guess I'm finally going to get to say one now that I'm at number 4 here, and it's Edge versus Christian versus the Hardy Boys versus the Edge and Christian, the TLC tables, ladders, and chairs on my WrestleMania 17.
That's my list.
Okay, I'll get it out of the way because that's my number 4 as well. The TLC match, WrestleMania 17. The former Brood versus the Hardys versus the Dudleys.
The new Brood. The former Brood versus the new Brood.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Did that one make your list too, Caps, or no?
I was like, I was contemplating. I was going to switch one out, but then I just like some of the other matches better.
Fair enough. Buddy, you're number 3.
My number 3 would be the one at WrestleMania 25, the one that was closest, which is the one between the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels.
All right, thank God that's not on my list.
Yeah,
It's
not on mine either.
Okay. Yeah, that one in just in general, it was just it felt like, because if I remember right, that's the last one for Shawn, wasn't it? Wasn't that like the way that he wanted to go out, was actually going against Undertaker?
Was that one,
Did you
Sean?
say 25 or 26?
That's
Okay,
25. 26 was the one where he retired.
Yeah, 25
Did I
was
say
the really, really good one.
Yeah, 25 was the better match. 25 was the better match.
Oh, but he didn't retire in 25.
No.
I thought
Yeah,
he
it was
retired on that one.
26.
Okay,
Because 27
okay.
and 28 was Triple H.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because I didn't like
every
that one.
Undertaker versus Shawn match was good.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, but I mean, I thought that was the last one for some reason in my head. I don't know why. It's been so long. So
No, but it was a
way,
good match. And
yeah,
it went
that's
long,
really,
that match.
Oh, that's another reason why too. But
Caps, your number 3.
Hulk versus Warrior. Got some really cool memories about that.
Yep, that one.
Did you go to the event?
There was, like, we were talking about it, and then we just decided that it wasn't going to happen. But we were planning on going, but just didn't happen. But yeah, I just remember being in the schoolyard, and like, there was a division with Hulk and Warrior. Fans, and it's like, oh fudge. So yeah.
Campo, number 3.
Razor versus Shawn. Ladder match.
Razor versus Shawn 10. Is my number 3 as well at WrestleMania 10. The ladder match.
That's a great match.
It was. R.I.P. Scott Hall.
Yeah, right.
Buddy.
Okay, so my number 2. Mm-hmm. Right now, we could talk about it. It is the triple threat tag team for the belts. The Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian. Like, yes. I know you want to jump in, Campo. I'm just going to say it. Monumental. Those 3 right there, cemented tag team triple threat ladders, tables, and chairs TLC matches. And to this day, no one else, no other teams of those 3 varied could ever top what they did. And that match,
they didn't even top what they did ever again.
Exactly.
They tried to.
I don't think I've ever seen a TLC match quite like that ever again.
No, there hasn't
like
been.
That spear off the top of the ladder on Jeff Hardy as he's trying to grab the briefcase. Like, that image is iconic.
They all admitted that they lost years off their life because of that match. So
that was partially one of the reasons why Edge had to retire early. He's back now, but that's partially one of the reasons.
He just can't do what he used to, though. Like, those things that he used to do, like, I miss those. And like, it was just what was so great about it, especially even since you had like Lita and Spike. Like,
Spike,
and when you had those kind of like involved a little bit, but I liked the beginning of this basically started with the cemented characters, the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and of course Edge and Christian. But like, each one of them had they all had their own weaknesses and greatness about them. Like, I always felt like the Dudley Boys were way more of like the edgy, like would go a little more chaotic. As far
Edge
as like
Christian were more of a high flyer, but technically sound, and the Dudleys were just brawlers.
Yes, exactly. And that's what it was. And it made so great for matches that this one in particular was like, just like, I remember when I first saw it, I felt like a kid. I know I wasn't a kid, but when I felt like a kid watching it, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, like, it was just so memorable that I remember to this day when I was going through this list, those were one of those matches I won't forget. Because it was so many moments where I was like, oh my God, like I knew it was fake, but it was just one of those things where like, oh my God, like it was like,
but those injuries were real.
Yeah,
I
know.
They all suffered injuries after that match.
This was for me. This was like just like the whole Mankind versus Undertaker Hell in the Cell match. You know what I mean? Where it had like so many moments where you're like, oh my God, like
almost on that level. Yeah.
And so I had to put that as my number 2. If it wasn't for my number 1, this would have been my number 1. So I had to say that. So, Campbell, do you want to add anything? Because I know you put it on your list, and I figured, or do we just basically?
I think you said it all.
I think you didn't let anyone else talk.
Sorry, I'm excited.
I got the spear in.
Yeah.
All right.
Me.
Caps, you're number 2.
Rock versus Hogan, WrestleMania 18, and it's so funny because the match was not that great. But it was the crowd that made the match. So
it turned Hogan into a babyface again.
Yeah.
Personally, my favorite match on that show, not on my list, but my personal favorite match from that show was actually the Triple H Jericho match, which was a much better match.
Yeah.
Well, does anyone else have that on their list?
No, I don't.
No. Okay, so my biggest thing about that is I agree with him. The crowd, that's probably one of the best crowd reactions that ever has happened during a match. But the actual match, The Rock did everything. Hogan literally his best move in that whole match was like
the firing up,
scraping of the back.
He barely could. He was barely.
Or when he starts doing the Hulk up
anymore.
Yeah,
he was already at that point where he wasn't able to do anything anymore, and his skill set is already low. But The Rock could sell like no tomorrow.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The Rock was such a great seller that he made Hogan look so good in that match.
Yeah,
that's what made it.
That's Hogan. How did Hogan last all of these years of being at the top when he literally doesn't do anything well?
But here's my thing. I think it's because back when, even though we do have a lot of the good wrestlers,
charisma goes a long way.
He was able to take the franchise outside of WWE and bring it to mainstream. So because of that, his charisma carried it. Even though come on, the leg drop. I'm sorry, that is the weakest finishing move ever. And for it to be his iconic move, kind of sets the standards of how it's all his charisma and not his moves. But in wrestling, again, like I know you guys loved Bret Hart growing up. That's what happened for me with Hogan, and only because of the charisma, not because of the talent. That's why I like Jimmy's a Superfly, because he had more technical.
He was a great murderer.
Hogan.
He was a great murderer.
Well,
he got away with it for 30 years, right?
I actually saw him live. They did some like Legends of Wrestling event at medieval times, and at that time I didn't even know who any of those people were. I probably have autographs somewhere from all of them too, and there were so many famous people, but like at that time I didn't know who anybody was.
The fact you're here to talk about it.
Yeah, nobody murdered me.
Nobody murdered. I have a autograph from Owen Hart somewhere, signed when he did an appearance at Honest Ed's.
Wow, that's
so the actual thing he signed was from Honest Ed's.
That's pretty rare to get an autograph from him, because he doesn't really do a lot of.
No, he did a signing. It was just him, and it was like for Honest Ed's or something.
Wow.
Yeah, that was Honest Ed's, Putty. If you don't know, it's like this discount.
It's a landmark dollar store, basically. That's been around forever.
It's Dollar General, basically.
No, but it wasn't franchise. It was only one
location.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
But it was landmark here in the city, and they tore it down a few years ago to put up condos. It looked like a casino. I'll show you. I'll send photos through the Discord.
It looked like Sam the Record Man. It was.
Yeah,
it
looked like a casino
store. There's one sold CDs and one was a dollar store. Hey, that sign's back downtown, and I love it.
What, the Sam sign?
Yeah.
Nice. I haven't seen it yet. But on that note, who did we just go? Was it Campo? It's yours, right?
It was me.
It's me.
Yeah,
so
you're number 2.
My number 2 is The Rock versus Stone Cold at WrestleMania 17. So does anybody else have this?
No, I do not.
Yeah, this is the one I had.
This is the best match between them, in my opinion. It doesn't. Yeah. And just so to be fair, like, not only did I rewatch all of these ones on my list, I didn't look up anything for any of these. I said this before. I only looked up what number of WrestleManias they were in. And then, so I had these ones. I have 2 honorable mentions and I had a couple others. So I went through them to make sure which ones were the best. And this is by far the best Rock versus Stone Cold. Like, I spent a good 8 hours today just watching old wrestling matches for this video. So congratulations to me for no reason. But yeah, it was definitely the best one between them. And this is 2 absolutely legendary wrestlers, especially for that era. And this is like the peak of Stone Cold right before his career completely ended.
Yeah, because his career literally ended at WrestleMania 19.
Yeah.
And he would not have another match until this past WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And we all know how that turned out.
It was an excellent match. An excellent match between them.
Sorry, go ahead, Putty.
Well, no, I was gonna say the side tricks. I thought we're continuing on. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, that's another one that came close, but there were other matches. There's 2 other matches on my list that cannot be topped. So,
and the only thing I wanted to say was shout out to the guy they cast for Young Rock to play Stone Cold. That's all I'm gonna say. Amazing job.
I haven't watched it, so I gotta look.
It's actually getting a lot better than it was before. I've enjoyed it so far, but like, yeah, it's getting better.
Okay, cool. My number 2, Brett versus Shawn, WrestleMania 12, the Iron Man match.
Makes sense, yeah.
Anybody on that have that on the list? No. Okay.
Not a big fan of that match.
Surprising. All right.
It was really, yeah, I thought it was really slow. Because they had to like pace themselves for a 60-minute match.
Yeah.
I think the story is good. I think the outcome, the ending for it was something that you want if you have two kind of baby faces and you don't want to call a match either way.
Yeah.
But, to me personally, now watching it after being an adult and having seen lots of wrestling,
to sit for an hour plus match. Yeah, it's hard.
The story leading into it is good. The story is pretty good. It is slow, like he said, but then the ending is like, you just wasted your time at the end. I was like, to not get a winner out of that is but
personally, I think the match should have ended in a draw.
Apparently something was supposed to happen and it didn't happen. And Bret Hart was actually mad about it at the end there. It was supposed to go into like overtime, right? Or something.
It did go into overtime, and that's where Sean won. Yeah. Okay. But it wasn't supposed to go into overtime. It wasn't
supposed to go into overtime.
It was supposed to end in a draw. So, but Vince changed the match on the fly, and that's the first out of two times he screwed Bret.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Do we all know what the second one was?
I don't
right.
That bothers me more than the Leaf game.
My number one, and I'm not sure if again this was the one I remember, and the thing is I when I was even when I looked up WrestleMania matches, it was the first one popped up all the time, and I'm like, no surprise to you, which is the Stone Cold versus Bret Hart, Ken Shamrock as the referee, no DQ. That's my number one. WrestleMania 13. There you go.
Same here.
Which was my number 5. That's all your number ones?
Yeah.
Okay, that was my number 5. So
I'm guessing yours is Steamboat versus Macho Man.
Mine's Steamboat versus Macho Man. Yeah.
Okay, so
which is funny because that's my first number 5 too.
That was my number 5. But okay, so here's
it tells different eras, right?
Yeah,
it shows.
I'll get it. I'll explain why. Because
absolutely.
I had it originally way higher, but the Bret Hart versus Stone Cold not only had a good story going into this. This was like the launching point for Stone Cold's career, where Bret worked with him, knowing that like there's such a fluid combination between the two of them, that they had different styles of wrestling, but this is like where Stone Cold adopted kind of always using the sharpshooter, which felt weird. Even The Rock always used the sharpshooter after this too.
That feels weird. You're right.
But it was just such a good match. There's a story that was told. There was blood. There was
he never tapped out.
Yeah, and they never tap out thing. That's a cop-out ending I liked. Because you knew Bret won the match, but because Stone Cold never tapped out, it kept both characters strong. Yeah.
But
it made Bret look like the winner without Stone Cold looking like the loser.
And also, that's probably the greatest double turn in wrestling history.
Yeah,
you instantly turned Bret Hart from a face to a heel and Stone Cold from a heel to a face instantly with the way that match ended.
This is between probably me and Caps, my favorite era of where Bret Hart goes. Like the character just became amazing after this.
Yeah. He went on the greatest run of his career.
He really let himself go. He, he was the guy that had trouble with his promos. But at this time, when he did that turn, he was that heel. He had something to talk about. And
the frustration, it was a great turn for.
And this is where I am. I'm still in the thick of this right now in my reliving the war, Monday Night War thing, but. It's great because he calls them all kinds of names. He asks them if they have the jam, and
this at this time, Austin could still wrestle, like he could still take those kind of bumps and he could dish it out before he had that little accident with Owen Hart. So at this point in time, Austin was able to keep up with Bret.
Yeah, technically, yes.
Yeah, and Bret was he could still go. At this time, I think he was around 40 at that time. So
this is peak Bret Hart. This is peak Bret Hart.
Yeah, it was an old school type hardcore match, and it had everything. It had everything.
Well, see, when you bring the aspect of Bret Hart, which is a very technical wrestler, he's way more skilled in my eyes than Stone Cold. But with Stone Cold being way more of the aggressor type, what it made it so good was like even that situation. I remember when I was because it was all played out and always in my head is when I'm watching these things. I'm like, oh God, it's not real. This is one of those moments like did Stone Cold literally just like pass out literally there because the thing is it was what cemented him as, for me at least, as like, dude, this is a hardcore MF. This is guy. Can take some shit. And when he came out of there, just like you guys said, it became one of those things where Bret Hart, it even made Bret Hart look more like, ooh, this is a dangerous man. You know what I mean?
The call on this match is great too.
Yeah,
doesn't he like he killed him? He killed him.
It was a very scary kind of feeling. Like they both at the same point for the technical side. I was like, I never want to fuck with Bret Hart, but then more of the more aggressive, mean side. I'm like, I don't want to mess with Stone Cold, and that felt like this match cemented both of their personalities in that way to the point of where. When I remember when I first saw this, it was one of those jaw drop moments. Like that's the reason why it went ahead of the Dudley things. It was one of those moments that I was like, "Holy crap!" That's cemented in the most violent, aggressive matches out there. Yeah. And again, it's probably the only WrestleMania one I feel that is like that as well, too. If that makes sense.
Well, I mean, too, like there's that image that's ingrained in my mind where Bret has him in the sharpshooter, and they're focusing on Austin's face, and you could see him. As he's screaming, you literally see the blood pouring out of his forehead. Like you literally can see the blood coming out of his forehead. Like, yeah, it was a blade job, but still,
the story about that is great too because he was scared to blade, so he trusted Bret enough that he's like, blade me because I don't want to do it myself. I don't know how to do it. So
there's that. Because you see Bret go like this to his forehead, and that's where he blades him.
You know what the other crazy thing is? Like, this is like their second match in about 6 months, and even after this match, you still wanted more. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't wait for the next match because it just left you on a.
It was one of those things
cliffhanger.
One of the only modern feuds that keeps up with. I know this didn't last that long, but Stone Cold and Bret Hart was like Stone Cold and The Rock. It was like something that no matter how many times you saw, you're like, I just want more Stone Cold than The Rock.
And this is like just like any WrestleMania match that you might be excited about. This was one of those ones that you could not wait to talk about it, either the people you knew, or wait to Raw to hear what they're going to say about it just the next day. It was one of those moments.
And then you got the Canadian Stampede moment where it's like that just took off, right? In Calgary, that was hectic. Yeah. Everyone got in the ring.
That was good, yeah.
Shout out to Ken Shamrock. He played his role really well.
Yeah,
he didn't screw around, nothing. I really appreciated that.
And he had no prior experience being in a wrestling ring.
But the thing too, he was fair. Like he said, he'd call it down the middle, and he did call it down the middle.
Yeah. But that's also the other thing that's exciting too, because I remember when I was going into this, I was like, is he going to interfere? Is this going to? So there was still that. I remember distinctly thinking, is he going to do something? Because I didn't know, and so that also added to the effect of why this match was so memorable in someone's head. Like there's so many little things that made you on the edge of your seat every single moment of this match. I'm still getting goosebumps just talking about it right now because I remember those moments. And the problem is WrestleMania. You'll see, like I said, like King of the Ring. There's the one I was talking about, the Hell in the Cell. There's a ton of other pay-per-views I feel that did a lot better in these when it comes to WrestleMania. But this was the one that set that stone for me.
I think this match holds up like
to this day,
with the best of them.
And I felt this was a better passing of the torch match than the one prior, even though I put it as number 2 on my list. That was supposed to be the passing of the torch from the old generation to the new generation, right?
This one was good.
This one did it better.
So let's talk about your match because it's on my list. I still think
it's on my list
match.
too. Yeah.
I originally had it way higher up.
Savage versus Steamboat. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's such a great match. It absolutely is. It's one of the best matches ever, especially from a technical wrestling aspect.
Choreographed
Here's my thing. It's so heavily choreographed that at that point, watching it, even when I was a little kid, you're like, wow, this is amazing. But when you go back and watch it now, you could see it spot. And it doesn't hold up as good, but I still cannot not have it on my list. It's a friggin' great match. And I can understand why anybody would have it as number 1.
Yeah. See, for me, because I was also a little bit older at the time too, when WrestleMania 3 first aired, I was already tired of Hogan. I wasn't.
That was the best wrestling in that ever at that point, probably.
Yeah.
Well,
and
yeah.
for me, that's when I started first to like following heels. Like, hey, maybe these guys, you know, the heels have a point. Like, that's when I started getting into like Piper and Savage, and like Jake the Snake was a heel at that time too. So it's like, wait a minute, these guys are pretty cool. They're pretty badass, and like not long after that, we get probably the greatest Randy Savage promo of all time with the little cream of the crop.
Ooh, yeah.
And see, see, the thing is,
The cream of
that's
the
the
crop.
reason I was going to put the only reason why it got lower on my list actually was because this list was so hard to make.
It was.
And when I was thinking back, because that was the first WrestleMania that I remember, I don't remember how I saw it because I was so young. But I don't remember if it was, I think I saw it on video. Because remember how they used to have the VHS
Coliseum home video, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's how I saw this. And so I was at that age because I didn't get to see the pay-per-view. We had a cheater box at one point later, but after this, which
I rented it at Frank's.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. The reason I did is because the reason we rented is because I was such a big fan of Hogan. I was anticipated. But the problem is looking back on it now, I was more hyped about Hogan because of the hype that was already out there. You know what I mean? That match right there was the only other match on that set that night that made me literally like Macho Randy Savage and all the other wrestlers and Ricky Steamboat because it actually it felt more real, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And so as I got older, I realized, because I always look back at the Hogan Andre match, but then they always mention that one. So for me, I started looking back and going, wow, this was a better match. So when I was making my list, I was trying to think of myself as like, what did I like as a kid and then? And that's the reason why I ended up capping, is because of I had more of like this is why I liked it as an adult, this is why I liked it as a kid.
Ricky Steamboat coming back from a broken windpipe.
I need to point out that the reason I've been laughing this whole time for anybody watching is because Buddy said Macho Randy Savage.
Macho Ran. I missed that. I gotta go back
anyway.
and watch this now.
Yeah, right.
Guys,
exactly.
if you want to see, rewind the video and go watch that and see if he says that.
Once again, you didn't have to like you don't have to explain yourself because this is about favorite matches and not best matches.
No.
We're going to talk about best matches.
No. But that's I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to justify. But the reason it was harder is because I wanted to cap so badly, but I figured since we were both in the same match, because the Hogan thing was such a memorable thing, I felt like they worked together on one thing, and I just called it one pay-per-view. You know what I mean?
Oh, you didn't like the Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake versus whoever they had the Killer Bees on that match.
I don't even remember that match. I mean, to be honest with you,
so,
Killer Bees.
Well, so what should we do here? Because I have two honorable mentions only.
Okay. I have some,
and one of them was one that you have on your list.
Which one?
The Owen Hart versus Bret Hart.
Okay, let's talk about that one because I think that's on all our lists.
Okay, so then I'll do the other one as my honorable mention then.
Sure. Let's talk about that Owen Bret. That one was that was my top honorable mention as well.
They have another great match. I think it's SummerSlam in the cage.
Yes.
Later on that year.
Yeah.
Is that I kicked the leg? I kicked your leg from out of your leg.
Yeah. But that's a better match, but that's a different match. This match was like really technical, and it really showed that Owen belonged.
Mm-hmm.
This was his coming out party of showing that I belong here.
I'm just as good as my brother.
That's the whole. Yeah, but that was the story. That was the story.
Yeah, that was actually the story.
And it has a lot to do with them because they were such great storytellers. So yeah, you're absolutely right on that, and that was the whole purpose of that match. And I think Bret argued that he wanted to go over, and it just didn't make sense. Like Owen had to go over because Owen was next in line for that SummerSlam match. So he had to go over. He had to become a threat, and it made that SummerSlam match a lot more appealing.
Not just that, it made it mean more for Bret that he finally got the revenge on his brother kind of thing, and like like the retribution. I proved. And at that point, it's 1-to-1, right? So they needed. I don't think they ever had that rubber match, did they?
No, because I believe that after that they ended up joining together.
Yeah, or didn't he go with Yokozuna?
Yeah, but he went with Yokozuna, then the Bulldog, and then they joined together. He never really soloed too much after that, except when he fought Yokozuna, I think.
Not even Japanese, Samoan.
That's a great match.
Yes, it was. But yeah, no, that was a fantastic match. And didn't Bret Hart also wrestle twice on that show?
Yes, he won the championship after.
Yeah, against Yoko.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. The belt he never should have lost at WrestleMania 9. All because he didn't want to job to Hogan.
Twice too. Yoko wrestled twice too.
Yeah, he fought Lex Luger in the first match, didn't he?
Yep.
So yeah, WrestleMania 10 was just an all-round great WrestleMania. Probably one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time.
It is. So WrestleMania 10 and WrestleMania 17 are probably the two best.
I agree.
17. Which one was 17
again? That's tables, ladders, and chairs, and
TLC.
Rock versus
Yeah, and that's the one Rock versus Stone Cold.
Yeah, Rock versus Stone Cold. Sorry.
Triple
threat. Yeah, you're right.
And there's another really good match on that card.
X7
too.
They called it, wasn't it?
Yeah, they called it X7. It was so weird.
Yeah.
Well, they did WrestleMania 2000 as well, where it didn't have a name. So,
which was what? That was 19, wasn't it?
Yeah. No. 19. I don't remember.
Yeah,
no, 19 was X1X, so it would have been 18.
I just remember I had the N64 game.
Yeah, I don't remember. Who cares? Who cares what year it was? But yeah, good call.
2000. But
so, okay, good. My honorable mention still stands.
Which one? Which one's the other?
Okay, should I just say it?
Let's do it. Yeah.
The triple threat match: Benoit versus HBK versus Triple H. That's probably the best triple threat match that's ever been at WrestleMania. Like individuals, Triple H match.
I think the reason I didn't get my list,
and I believe this is. Sorry, go, Putty.
No, I was just gonna say I saw that and I was like, I think the reason why I didn't get my list is because I never I felt like the same way. Like you, I think you said at one point, Campo, you're not really. Who was the one that said they weren't really a big Triple H fan? I think
none of us are big Triple H fans.
Okay.
None of us. Yeah.
I'm not really that big a fan of his either. And then the whole Benoit situation, unfortunately, the aftermath of what happened later down the road, it gave me a bad taste
for you.
Yeah. I think it's what happened with me. No, when I even look back on it and can't enjoy it.
It doesn't get in my way, but I understand it. And this is the point where Benoit had the title, the WCW title, and Eddie Guerrero had the WWF title. And it was like a huge thing because they're both small guys, and that didn't happen in the WWF. And we all
shout out to the match where Eddie won it. That Eddie versus Angle match at WrestleMania 20.
Yeah, yep.
Against Kurt Angle. Yeah.
That was also a good match. Not as good as this.
No.
But
was WrestleMania 19 also the one where Brock does the shooting star press and lands on his neck against Angle?
Is that 19?
I don't think I've seen that.
I think that's 21.
Was it?
I don't remember.
No, wait.
20 is the last one
19.
I saw.
It's 19.
Yeah,
right.
because 21 was the Goldberg Brock match.
Yeah, that was funny.
I've got WrestleMania 19, but I don't remember that. Why do I not remember that?
I don't know, but I just remember Brock Lesnar. He goes on the top rope to do that shooting star press and lands on his head.
Oh, yeah.
He completely botched that.
Yep.
He didn't want to do it.
No, he didn't. Angle pressured him into doing it. Anyway, but yeah.
But hey,
good call on that match, Campo. That's one that is forgotten about because nobody talks about Benoit anymore. It's like a taboo. But I mean, we're not justifying what he did.
I don't
obviously.
think it's taboo to say that the matches he's in are good. I think if you talk about him being a great person or something is kind of weird. But
no, he was a piece of garbage.
But wrestling is wrestling. Like look how many of those wrestlers were huge pieces of shit.
Yeah.
So all of them from that era.
Since we're on WrestleMania 19, I have one from WrestleMania 19 I mentioned, which is the Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho, which I felt was a good match because Chris Jericho looking up to Shawn Michaels really cemented that as an exciting match. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I put them on mentions. I've got like one other one, but I figured since we're there, that was the one I would throw out there as well too.
But wait a minute, did you like that match, or was you thought it was a really good match?
It was a good. I mean, I think it was more the leading into it. Sometimes
the story you preferred the story than the actual match itself.
Yeah, pretty
Makes
much.
sense.
That's why it's in the honorable mentions. It's not in the actual list. If that makes
what
sense.
About you, Caps? You got any?
Oh no, I just want to keep it as a top 5 in terms of just favorites. This was a tough one. I mean, I can go on and on about what I thought was a good match, but
not the greatest matches.
My honorable mentions were just the ones that I was debating whether or not they were actually going to be on my list the whole time, and then I was like, I'll just keep it here for extra.
And basically, that's what I did too. The Hart versus Hart match was my top honorable mention, and that's it. But,
D7 were like, I told you, when he said to do the list, I already knew 7 matches that were my favorite.
I already thought if I had to think about a match, it didn't deserve to be on my top 5 to me.
That's what I mean. Well, if we were going best, I'd definitely have to spend days going through WrestleManias and watching like
It felt like the opposite, where it was more like what are the ones I think that aren't good because I like them. Does that make sense?
Well,
like
also, in fairness, from WrestleMania 20 until what was the one we just watched?
38.
I had not seen any WrestleManias. Well, I had not seen any WrestleManias. Yeah. I've never even seen 19. I stopped watching at 18, and I just happened to watch 20. I was at somebody's house, and they were watching it.
And John, see, you're the same point I was. The only other one I saw, and I put in my honorable mentions, so I actually enjoyed the match, was at WrestleMania 28, which is the Rock and Cena match. That one I put on my honorable mentions because I actually enjoyed the match, but it was also
that's 27, wasn't it?
I thought it was 28.
28.
Either way,
yeah, two.
Yeah, they had two back to back.
There's a really good Cena match. It's Cena versus it's not The Rock. Crap.
HBK.
Is it Shawn Michaels?
Yeah, I think it was the Shawn Michaels match. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. I've seen that, but I didn't see the WrestleMania. I'm only counting ones where I've seen the WrestleMania.
Makes sense, yeah.
I mean, okay, if that's the case, then the one I want to throw out too is that one where Edge wins the first ever Money in the Bank at WrestleMania.
That's a good WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
I will throw out there because I've always been a fan of Undertaker, and I always liked some of the Undertaker matches, even though they were like horrible. Like even
Giant Gonzalez.
As a kid, I enjoyed that match, but when I look at it now, that's like a horrible match.
Listen, I know you really like Undertaker. When we did our top 5, whatever, you were like, "How come nobody has Undertaker?" But like, I think we need to expand this into like we have to have like a top 10 list because I feel like top 5 is not enough. But like Undertaker's pretty. No, just for like our favorite wrestlers or best wrestlers. It can't be the Mount Rushmore anymore. It needs to grow.
It needs to grow.
Rushmore is
you know what? Updated video coming soon.
Yeah.
Our 10 Wrestling Hall of Famers. How about that?
If we ever have new people on, that's the question you say. What's your Mount Rushmore? But like for us, we need to expand it because by now people know who we are. But I think I love Undertaker. He's one of my favorites. He would make my top 10. Yeah. But I just think compared to my top 5 when we had that discussion, because I know you remember that, where we were like kind of harping on him, but it's because he's like a greatest hits, right? You know what's going to come in his match. It's always going to be the same cycle of things. But it doesn't mean it was bad. Like the way he put on a show was great. Yeah. And him and HBK together is the greatest.
Was special, yeah.
And him and Foley too. Anything he did with Foley was great.
Yeah, Foley was amazing. I was a fan of Foley.
That WrestleMania match against Jake Roberts, not so much.
Jake Roberts is a story for another day.
Yes.
It's another whole list.
Favorite wrestlers never to win a championship coming soon.
God, can we do that? Because I would like to do that list.
Yeah. So I'm done with my list. If you guys want to read through your list one more time, and we'll end the video there. Putty, go through your top 5 one last time.
So of course I was the only person that capped, so I'll just go and say it, which is just basically WrestleMania 3, Andre versus Hogan, and Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat, aka Randy. Number 4,
Randy.
I messed up. Yeah, Randy. Number 4 is Stone Cold versus The Rock at no DQ at W. Anyway, 3rd is Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. 2, triple threats. Tag team champion match, all the TLC match, whatever you want to call it. Edge and Christian, Hardy Boy, Double Boys, and then number 1, Stone Cold versus Bret Hart, Ken Shamrock. There you go.
Caps. Right. Mine top 5. Number 5, Bret versus Owen, WrestleMania 10. Number 4, Razor versus Shawn, WrestleMania 10. Number 3, Hulk versus Warrior, WrestleMania 6. Number 2, Hulk versus Hogan, WrestleMania 18. And number 1, Bret versus Stone Cold, WrestleMania 13.
Okay, so my number 5 is Steamboat versus Macho Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3. My number 4 is the Brood versus the New Brood versus the Dudley Boys at WrestleMania 17, tables, ladders, and chairs. My number 3 is Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon, WrestleMania 10. My number 2 is The Rock versus Stone Cold, 17. And Bret Hart versus Stone Cold, WrestleMania 13 is my number 1.
All right. And whereas my number 5 was Hart versus Stone Cold, WrestleMania 13. Number 4 was that aforementioned TLC match. Number 3 was Shawn and Razor. Number 2 was Bret and Shawn, the Iron Man match. Number 1 was Savage Steamboat. I just realized we never talked about the Razor Shawn match because we talked about it.
It was in my mentions too.
But we talked about it in the Razor Ramon retrospective.
Yes,
so if you want to hear our thoughts on that match, I'm going to have the link to that over here, so you guys can go click on that, watch our Scott Hall. Go watch our Scott Hall retrospective, and we talk about that match in depth over there. So other than that, guys, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see y'all next time. Ooh, yeah.